All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to completely shatter basically everything you thought you knew about motivation, life hacks, and achieving greatness. If you're that person constantly scrolling for the perfect morning routine, or, searching for the ultimate productivity trick, or just waiting for inspiration to strike before you finally start, consider this your serious and, slightly uncomfortable wake-up call. We are leaving the comfort zone way, way behind today. So what if everything you know about motivation is just a lie? I really want you to honestly ask yourself this. Have you been relying on cheap productivity hacks and these fleeting little bursts of inspiration to actually get things done? Because here's the thing. The reality of true high performance is decidedly unfun. It's not pretty, it rarely feels good in the moment, and it absolutely does not come with a neat little checklist. For this explainer, we're drawing from an absolutely intense conversation between Stanford neurobiologist Dr. Andrew Huberman and retired Navy SEAL and ultramarathoner David Goggins. And Goggins has this famous saying that pretty much sets the entire tone for this. He says, "There's no fucking hack, bro. The hack is going to fucking suck." In this discussion, Goggins reveals the unfiltered, brutal truth about extracting greatness from absolutely nothing. And the crazy part? Huberman backs it all up with groundbreaking neuroscience. Section 1. The Myth of Motivation. Let's look at the deep flaw in exactly how our modern world views drive and purpose. You see, society constantly sells us on this idea of the carrot. We're told over and over again to find our passion, to set up little reward systems for ourselves, and just look for shortcuts or life hacks to make the whole journey easier. But true high performers, guys like Goggins, they operate entirely on the stick. He's driven by the haunting reality of his own potential. It's about absolute accountability and actively seeking out constant, unrelenting friction. There is zero carrot waiting for him at the end of the day. It is all stick all the time. Section 2. Driven by the stick. Now, it's really critical to realize that Goggins wasn't just born this way. His origin story actually starts out as a 300-pound, deeply insecure young man, struggling with severe learning disabilities like ADD and ADHD, while working this dead-end job spraying for cockroaches that he absolutely despised. He saw himself, and these are his own words here, as the lowest form on Earth. Goggins realized pretty early on that there was no magic potion coming to save him. He didn't have a single person stepping in to act as a shield between him and the harsh reality of the world. He was literally haunted by his own reality. He recognized that if he wanted to change, he had to completely outwork his genetics and the terrible hand he was dealt. He had to build a character of absolute discipline from the ground up, literally brick by agonizing brick. To show you what this actually looks like in practice, let's talk about the grueling, insanely repetitive step-by-step process he uses right now just to study for his paramedic exams. Because of his severe learning disabilities, he can't just, casually read a textbook and absorb the info. Instead, he sits down with a pen and paper and writes out the exact same page over and over again until it forms a photographic memory in his mind. When he takes a test, he's basically flipping through those mental pages. It takes him hours every single day just to retain what he's learned. Think about how much you hated flashcards in high school and then multiply that misery by about 1,000. That is the baseline of his daily existence. Section 3. The Neuroscience of Willpower. Right when this sheer brutality starts to sound kind of psychotic, Dr. Andrew Huberman drops a massive neurobiological bomb that changes everything. We're moving from the anecdotal straight into the hard anatomical reality here. So deep inside your brain, there's this dynamic structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC. And listen, this isn't just some clever metaphor for grit. Huberman explains that scientists are now recognizing this specific physical structure as the literal seat of willpower and maybe even the seat of the will to live. It is the engine of tenacity. And guess what? Every single one of us has one sitting right there in our heads. When Huberman breaks down the data on this, it proves just how dynamic and responsive this brain area actually is. The AMCC's physical size directly correlates with a person's relationship to friction and overcoming challenges. It's noticeably smaller in obese individuals, but get this, it actually gets bigger when they start dieting. It's larger in athletes. It grows significantly in people who see themselves as facing a massive challenge and then successfully overcome it. And fascinatingly, in superagers, people who live a very long time while maintaining high cognitive function, this area completely maintains its size. Section 4. Plasticity and the suck. Now let's see how this builds into the absolute most important rule about your brain's neuroplasticity, because there is a massive catch to how this brain area grows. Here is that massive catch, and really the ultimate secret to unlocking your willpower.
If you do hard things, like lifting heavy weights or jumping into a freezing ice bath, but you actually enjoy the endorphin rush or the challenge of doing them, your willpower center does not grow. It stays exactly the same size. The AMCC only physically expands when you force yourself to do things you actively despise. It only grows when there's absolute, undeniable mental friction. Just adding more work isn't enough. You have to add work you do not want to do. If you love the ice bath, well, the ice bath isn't building your willpower anymore. You have to find the thing you hate.
Because to him, friction is growth. And the wild thing is, Goggins lived this scientific reality for decades without ever knowing the brain anatomy behind it. He just intuitively understood that constant, miserable friction was his only path forward. That is exactly why he absolutely refuses to have a documentary made about his daily life. Because the reality of doing what you hate every single day isn't cinematic. There are no dramatic camera angles. It looks like a nightmare. But leaning into that nightmare, that is exactly what grew his AMCC to superhuman levels. But unfortunately, this brain area shrinks just as fast as it grows. Huberman notes that the EMCC has neuroplasticity in both directions. It functions a bit like silly putty. If you don't engage in things that are hard for you, things you fiercely do not want to do, your willpower literally physically shrinks away. It requires daily, uncomfortable upkeep. It's honestly very much like fighting a lifelong addiction. The cure only works one day at a time, which means you have to wake up and renew that prescription through pain every single day, with a strict no days off mentality. Section 5. The unbalanced truth. And this brings us to the harsh, uncomfortable reality of what maintaining an enormous AMCC actually costs you in everyday life. Goggins protects his willpower fiercely, and he does this by being ruthlessly upfront in his relationships. For years, he lived as a people pleaser, constantly compromising himself to make others happy while feeling totally empty inside. But now, he refuses to do that. He tells people outright, "I'm not what you want in a man. I would never compromise David Goggins." He flat out refuses to sacrifice his internal drive just to make someone else's day a little easier. He is highly unbalanced, and he'll be the very first to admit it. Now, he ensures his family has everything they need: money, a roof over their heads, love, and support. So they are fundamentally taken care of. But in return, he demands absolute undisturbed time to face his demons and build his mind. He entirely forgoes traditional balance, and that means sacrificing social norms. He skips the dinner parties, the casual hangouts, the lazy Sunday mornings. He demands that undisturbed time for the grind, to forge the extreme confidence required to be exactly who he is. Section 6. Embracing the friction. Now, as we wrap up this explainer, we really need to turn the mirror back onto you and examine your untapped potential. 75%. I really want you to just sit with that number for a second. Goggins asserts that a staggering 75% of your true potential remains locked away simply because you refuse to engage with your own willpower. Do you feel that void? So many people walk around feeling like they're missing something absolutely crucial in life, despite having comfort, safety, and even outward success. And the reason they feel so empty is because they haven't honestly examined themselves, and they haven't pushed through that necessary friction to find out what they are truly capable of. You have to realize that hard work looks horrible. There's no epic cinematic background music playing when you wake up at 4 a.m. to do something you absolutely hate. You are alone, it is dark, and it is miserable. Unlocking your potential is going to be a deeply uncomfortable journey. The magic isn't in finding a passion that makes everything perfectly easy. The magic is in the suck. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex is physically shrinking the very moment you choose comfort. So, what uncomfortable truth will you finally confront today? What friction will you choose, and what will you force yourself to do that you absolutely hate just to guarantee that you grow?